Well, everyone, we are so back. And I say that in both a good way and a bad way. Andres from AA Sports. The San Jose Sharks played their first game of the 2025-2026 NHL season at home in SAP Center in downtown San Jose. And while the pregame events for the fans was great, as you can see behind me by some of the souvenirs I got, as well as some of the autographs, as I got the special opportunity to meet some of the players pre-game. So yeah, as you can see behind me, the pre-game fan experience for this opening game was incredible. But in terms of what unfolded on the ice in this first game of the year for San Jose, wow, yeah, that might have been the most embarrassing opening game result for the Sharks in franchise history. The Sharks were pretty competitive and played with a lot of energy and physicality, and at some points even looked like the better team on the ice, particularly in the second period. And entering the final 2 minutes of the third period, they looked like they were going to win their first game of the season. But then, in the most heartbreaking and abysmal way possible, in a way that felt really similar to last year in a lot of games last season, the Sharks defensively, they failed to finish the job. Starting goalkeeper Alex Nedeljkovic with a horrendous error in the final 90 seconds of regulation time. And then in overtime, making another awful mistake coming out from the net, failing miserably to recover the puck, giving the Golden Knights essentially a game-winning empty net goal in overtime. No, your ears are not mistaken. You heard that correct. The Golden Knights practically had a game-winning empty net goal in overtime. It was so crazy to watch. I was at the game yesterday. I actually have it on video and I posted it up on the channel. The best way to there's not a way to like really best describe it except to tell you guys to watch that video and just see what the play looked like. It was ugly. It was ugly for the Sharks. The Sharks got a point from this game because it was an overtime loss, and when you lose in overtime, you do get a point that goes towards the standings. But I speak for a lot of fans when I say this loss was inexcusable, it was preventable, and it felt as if the Sharks started the season right where they left off last season. Final score, the San Jose Sharks lose 4-3. In overtime versus the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Here are the Sharks' performance grades for their first game of the season. Offensive front, B+. Jeff Skinner scored the Sharks' first goal of the season, and it was his first goal as a member of the San Jose Sharks. He got the goal off a rebound in front of the net that he was able to recover. And in the second period, we finally saw an aspect of improvement in the Sharks' power play, with Alex Wennberg scoring the second goal of the game on a 5-on-3 power play. Nice to see the Sharks capitalize on at least one power play in this game, which was something they struggled with last year. And Filip Kurashev scored the Sharks' third goal in this game. William Eklund had a solid game with an assist, and while new alternate captain Macklin Celebrini didn't score or contribute any assists, Celebrini, he was still very active offensively and good and efficient in passing the puck. While he didn't play a whole lot in the preseason, Celebrini still looked like one of the best offensive players in this first game with his skill with the puck at his feet. So look for Macklin Celebrini to only get better as the season progresses. Their one major mistake, and the reason why I can't give them any grade in the A category, Their one major mistake was failing to score while the Golden Knights had an empty net in the final 3 minutes of the game. There were 2 or 3 opportunities where they got close, and Eklund has shot go just wide. This is definitely not a good look for the offensive front. These are plays that, you got to make those. You have to make those. These are plays where you have to score to effectively close out games in the NHL. So to not get that empty net goal, not great from the offensive front there. And unfortunately, with the goalkeeping errors, which we'll talk about later in this video, the Sharks paid a price for not getting that empty net goal. Defensemen, C+. In total, they combined for 4 assists in this game, with 2 coming from Shakir Mukhamadullin. So offensively, they contributed pretty well. However, since I already noted how Shakir Mukhamadullin got 2 of the assists in this game, so I might as well talk about him. When it comes to Shakir, he definitely had a couple of costly penalties, resulting in power plays for the Golden Knights, with the second penalty resulting in a power play where the Knights scored their second goal of the game. Not ideal there. But outside of the 2 penalties, I thought Shakir Mukhamadullin was good on both ends of the ice. If he can just be more self-disciplined and not commit these costly penalties going forward, I can definitely see the Sharks wanting to keep him as part of the team in the long term. Remember, he is playing not just to be a starter throughout the season. He is competing to stay part of this team going forward, as the Sharks only gave him a 1-year contract extension. As for the rest of the defensemen, Liljegren I thought was one of the best defensemen in this game, along with Shakir Mukhamadullin, despite the penalties Shakir obviously committed. But again, without guys like Goodrow on the ice, they still struggle to kill power plays defensively, which is why we saw the defense concede yet another power play goal in this game. I'll give them some slack for this one, given the Golden Knights tend to be a good team on the power play. But this is something the Sharks will continue to look to improve on this season. The way they played on the first goal was also not a good look, with 2 defensemen failing to stop Brett Howden and sort of watching him skate by them to the front of the net and taking the shot to score the goal. I do believe more could have been done by the defensemen in moments like that on the ice to try and prevent goals. Enforcers, B-. Now, most of you avid hockey fans will probably laugh at the fact that I have a grading category for the enforcers, because the enforcer is technically not an actual position on a hockey team like a goalkeeper or a defenseman or a forward is. The enforcer is more of a leadership role you have on the team, being the tough guy who is sort of a deterrent. You protect the offensive stars from cheap shots. They're the ones that, often are the ones that get into fights on the ice. But with that, because it is kind of a leadership role on the team, I decided to include it as a grade category. So with that, enforcers, B- grade for this game. Ty Dellandrea really impressed me in this game, playing on the third line along with Colin Graff and Skinner. I was a little skeptical about this, given Dellandrea was very hit or miss last year, but he played well and contributed an assist on the goal by Skinner. He was also very good in the second period, maybe one of the best players on the ice for the Sharks in those 20 minutes. As for Barclay Goodrow, while he wasn't contributing offensively like Dellandrea, he was quite good on the penalty kill, battling for pucks and able to clear the puck out of danger. And this was against a Golden Knights team that, remember, is usually very good on the power play. So for Goodrow to do as well as he did in the penalty kill in this game, that is something positive for him to start the season on. However, at even strength, 6v6, 5 skaters, plus the goalie, even matched. he looked shaky at best, and he ended up being partially at fault for the first goal conceded, getting completely outplayed by Howden near the boards. As for Ryan Reeves, a true enforcer in hockey, and one of the last remaining players in the NHL to not wear a visor, he had an average game, to best describe it. He contributed to the 22 hits the Sharks produced in this game, but outside of that, did not contribute offensively. And at times, he looked slower on the ice in comparison to Goodrow and Dellandrea. So yeah, Ryan Reeves definitely looking like that sole enforcer role and only contributing there. Goalkeeper. Here we go. Goalkeeper. D. Alex Nedeljkovic made 27 saves, with some of them being really good, especially in the first 57 minutes. In terms of the 2 goals conceded at that time, neither were really his fault. One was on a power play, and the first goal was more the defensemen who were at fault. Overall, he was a good goalie for 57 minutes. As for the final minutes of regulation time and overtime, it felt like we were watching Alexander Georgiev all over again. The mistakes made were shocking, really shocking. Again, I have both of his mistakes on video. They're up on the channel now. I mean, the best way to describe it is watch those videos. I mean, it's just crazy how bad those errors were. On the third goal, to try and describe them at best, on the third goal, he was slightly outside of his crease. Eichel lobs the puck up from almost near the blue line, and it bounces on the ice in front of Nedeljkovic and veers towards his right, but instead he goes left as if he anticipated the puck veering the opposite way. Just an ugly error from him there that forced the game into overtime. And I think he completely lost confidence in himself to recover pucks in scenarios like that for the rest of the game, which I think led up to that second and game-losing mistake. On that second error, the fourth goal conceded, he comes out from the net nearly to the Sharks' blue line, but it looked as if he was hesitant in which way he thought he was best to recover or clear the puck out of danger, which results in Riley Smith beating him to the puck. He passes it to Shea Theodore, who gives it back to him as they completely burn Nedeljkovic, who completely abandoned his crease to try to somehow play the puck. And Riley Smith gets the easiest goal of his life, an empty net goal in overtime. Yes, a freaking empty net goal in overtime. Never thought I'd see that in person in my life, yet here we are. I mean, again, it's just crazy, something you never hear of happening, except with the Sharks because of their defensive struggles over the last 2 years. Whether it's defensemen or when Georgiev was conceding 4 goals per game as the goalkeeper. And in this game, it was the goalkeeper, it was Nedeljkovic, who made the 2 major errors that reminded us of the horrors of watching Georgiev play during last season. Sharks fans, when leaving the stadium, were furious. I mean, when those 2 goals happened, I mean, it was just... The stadium was stunned. Fans were like in shock, hands on their heads, just like deer in headlights looks. It was like we couldn't believe what we had witnessed. And then leaving the arena, Sharks fans were furious, absolutely furious that Askarov was not the starting goalkeeper in this game. And rightfully so, after goalkeeping errors which cost the Sharks the game. And you got to imagine Yaroslav Askarov will start versus the Ducks on Saturday. Head coach, C. A young offense, a good young offense, and improvements in scoring on the power play, only to be followed up by a defense that remains shaky with another poor goalkeeper performance. Literally right where the team left off last year. Why he decided to start Nedeljkovic over the team's future goalkeeper who is more than ready to play in Yaroslav Askarov? That is a good question for Ryan Warsofsky. And while there was hesitancy to play Misa and Dickinson in this game because the Golden Knights have a lot of experienced players, which is why Warsofsky ended up deciding to leave them off the roster for this game, healthy scratching them. I think this would have been a good game for them to play in, given it was a winnable game for the Sharks. Look, I get it. Warsofsky, because he doesn't have a lot of experience in the NHL, it's only his second. He's only entering the season. It's going to be his second year as a coach in the NHL. I get it. Going with what he knows, veteran players that he trusts and all. But not all of these veteran players are contributing in good ways, particularly on defense and penalty kills. At some point, Warsofsky needs to get out of his comfort zone of sticking with only these veteran players like Mario Ferraro and not be afraid to try younger players immediately and start believing in them now instead of later in the season in February or March. We'll see if he decides it's time for both Michael Misa and Sam Dickinson to make their debut on Saturday. I sure hope so. Final score, 4-3. The Sharks lose at home in their first game of the year in overtime. For an overall grade for the team, I will give the Sharks a C. Competitive young offense, followed up by a defense that still struggles to defend, especially on the power plays, and a goalkeeping performance that, again, reminded us of last season after we traded Mackenzie Blackwood. Yeah, let's go. We're so fucking back, boys. Yeah, we are right back where we left off last year. The question is, will they actually show improvement and not be a bottom three team in the NHL this year? Will we finally see them improve in the Pacific Division? We'll find out. They have another 81 games to try to show improvement as a young rebuilding team, starting on Saturday versus the Anaheim Ducks. Andres from AA Sports. That will be all for this video. Leave a like and subscribe to support this channel. We are almost at 200 subscribers. So let's reach that goal. Help me reach that goal of 200 subscribers. And then let's see if we can get to 300. And if you guys want Sharks videos in Spanish, si ustedes quieren videos sobre los tiburones en español, déjame saber en los comentarios. Let me know in the comments. And I will work on that as well. With that, thanks for watching and listening. And stay tuned in for my next videos covering the Mexico national team and their return to play for the October international break with games versus Colombia and Ecuador. Thank you so much for listening and watching.